Welcome to the Kickass Couples Podcast. This is the place where we help committed couples who want to level up their marriage experience newfound clarity, hope, and confidence. We're Matthew and Kim, co-hosts and husband and wife.
In 26 years together, we've seen a lot and never thought it could be as good as it is right now. We're here to help you successfully navigate the messy, dirty, and wonderful world of marriage.
We believe all couples deserve and are capable of experiencing an extraordinary and fulfilling marriage. And each week, we're bringing you life lessons from real-life successful couples to help you grow and strengthen your relationship.
We'll get started right after this message.
If you want to learn how to experience the best, most fulfilling year of your marriage, we invite you to order Matthew's new book, Kickass Husband, Winning at Life, Marriage, and Sex. You can get it at Amazon.com or visit Matthew's website, www.matthewphoffman.com. Again, that's Amazon.com or www.matthewphoffman.com. And now, back to the show.
Today we are speaking to Scott and Erika Savor. Scott is a leadership consultant and professional speaker for individuals, teams, and companies. He specializes in the subjects of leadership, motivation, and mental training. Scott is also a successful author of Uncommon Competitor, One-Day Contracts. His wife Erika is a physical therapist, specializing treating athletes who participate in sports that require overhead motions. She has a passion for health, fitness, and teaching others, and of course, raising their 14-year-old son. Scott and Erika specialize in creating systems that work and keep their relationship thriving. They even make asking your partner to do chores fun and exciting. These two are experts in the importance of core values and gratitude, and are here to share the games, exercises, and key tactics they use to make their relationship undoubtedly kick ass. In today's recap edition episode, Kim and I will share our key takeaways from our interview with this dynamic couple. We'll break down concepts, relationship qualities, and key pillar points that they've used to build their rock-solid relationship that will stand the test of time.
Welcome to the Kickass Couples Podcast, where we are coming to you live from Greenville, South Carolina. We're here in Maynard. This is our first episode since we have returned from Tampa, Florida, where Matthew just launched his first book, Kickass Husband. And so today we're here to recap our interview with Scott and Erika Savor.
A lot of fun, and we had a great time in Tampa. I had over 150 people at that book launch. The beautiful woman next to me supported me, huge, made it all happen. It's been 3 years in the making, and we're glad to be back here in Greenville. So we're in our studio, Maynard, who follows us everywhere we go. It is a he, Maynard, right? He is a lot of fun. We're shooting at nighttime, which is a little different from us. So if you see it looks a little darker, hopefully we've got the lighting right if you're watching us and not just listening. But man, back to this recap. What a cool, we say this about everybody, and we got to come up with maybe some new lines, but I feel like every couple we interview, these guys were just really cool, kick ass.
They really were. And I feel the same as you, Matthew. Every time we do an interview, I feel like we take away so many good pearls and so much wisdom and experience from the people that have kind of gone before us and those who even walk with us. So it's been really fun. And I agree. I think right out of the gate, this couple came out with, I'm going to give you my first take on.
She's stealing first on me. I hate it when she does that.
I love it so much that I really wanted to talk about their core value system, because I'm sure that was something that you noted as well. They came out of the gate saying, we are not perfect, but we have a core value system, and it is written, it is printed out, it is framed, and it is on the wall of our house. And
do you remember what was at the top of that list? How they titled it? Because I think that's kind of cool too to talk about.
Oh yes, so it's more like a question than it is.
It's a question, yeah.
A to-do list. It is today I did.
Or today did I.
Or today did I. That's correct.
Right, yeah.
And I wrote down a couple of examples. Today did I write down what I'm grateful for? Today did I write down goals and responsibilities, which I have 100% control over? Today did I hug at hello, and did I hug at goodbye? So
I
those
love
are just,
that rule.
I know. That's a Tony Dungy rule.
It is. We obey by that.
They gave him credit for that. And I have to say that is something that we try to do and remember to do every day.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that was, so what else? Do you have any more to share about that takeaway? That was kind of weird. That was really around commitment, right? We were talking about commitment with them.
They have 25 of them. They feel like they're all controllable and they're daily disciplines. And they come as a question, did I do this? At the end of the day, you can look at that list. And, if they get half of them, they feel like they're really doing well.
Yeah. And what was so cool, Kim, is they came up with this list together. They sat down and they said, what are the right questions? And I loved, Scott said, that evolution always, and that wisdom begins with a definition of terms. So if they want to be wise about this relationship that they have, they got to define what are the terms? Like, what are we agreeing to? What are we focusing on? And that list of today did I, it's right on the wall when they walk in the house. So they can't run away from it. It's not in the closet. It's not out of sight.
That's right.
But they see it every time they come in. And it's a reminder to them of their contract, right? What they committed to each other and what they have to work on. And I think it kind of went a little further when they're talking about commitment, and it's not who's right. They talked about a little bit with that too. I kind of took away from that. And I think it was Scott that said, and Erika may have said the same thing, is do they agree on it, right? And there's not just three choices. It's not is it one opinion or the other opinion or the two of them, but they said it's got to be one choice. And you and I have talked about this a lot relative to commitment, that it's the us, right? It's not you or me, but it's us. If it wins for the relationship, it's got to be a win for everybody. And I like that a lot. And, the idea of always evolving. And even though the questions are on the page, how they respond to them and how they fulfill them changes, I think they shared.
They did. I think it's important to note that they both came from similar backgrounds. And they talked a little bit about, we have very similar parenting. However, on Scott's side, he believed that he inherited a communication deficit. And I think he got that because his dad actually had that. He was raised by a stepfather. There was poor communication. And so he felt like that just sort of kind of trickled down to him as well. And he felt like in communicating that that was an area that he struggled with and needed to grow in. And I love that they said, we've made communication now intentional. We have check-ins, we have huddles. Erika is busy all day long as a physical therapist. I'm busy with my work as well. But no matter what, and no matter how busy we are, we make time to connect, to relate, which builds trust, and then we repeat.
Yeah.
I loved that.
He had that phrase. He said, connect, relate, trust, repeat. Rinse cycle, baby.
That's right.
And I think she shared, and you and I can relate to this as well, that we're in the sandwich generation right now, and where you're taking care of kids, your own kids, but then you're also kind of taking care of and having more responsibility for your parents. And for you and I, it's a little different because you come from a family of three children. You're the oldest, so you're the first one that your parents cut their teeth on, and I'm the baby. So I think that by the time I rolled around in life, my parents were kind of like, all right, first one, you're real uptight. Same with us, right? The second one, you're a little more relaxed. And the third one, you're kind of like, all right, whatever. So you and I have different roles within our family. And your parents and your brother and sister, I think, a little bit too, look to you for decisions and questions and trust and responsibility. So right now you're taking on more responsibility for your parents and their affairs and their care. Your sister's really stepped up as well. And I think that Erika alluded to that. She said, gosh, we're both in the time of our lives. We're caring for our parents and caring for our kids. And that can add some stress and pressure to a relationship, can it?
It definitely does, and I can relate to that. As you said, I'm sort of in the midst of that right now, and it does. It really tugs at you from different directions. So you're, trying to do what you can for your family, but also trying to do what you can for your parents who raised you and did so much for you your entire life, and you really feel like you want to give back and to do what needs to be done to care for them as they age and as they transition in life. And it does tug you in different directions, and it's hard.
It is. And I think that one of the things that a cool concept, Kim, that you and I have talked about a lot with other couples, and we've done focus on the pillars, is we always go back and say, what was the family history like, so we can understand where the relationship came today. And really one of the biggest conflicts is, what's your prioritization? What's number one? And yes, we have responsibilities. There's seasons in our lives, in our families, in our relationships, but you still got to make sure that your number one is your spouse. And it can, as you're caring for parents or family members outside of your core family, it can really pull you apart and cause you to take your eye off the ball, so to speak, and change that prioritization. So I think that Erika alluded to that, and she was really working to make sure with Scott that that didn't happen in their relationship. And that's something you and I, and I'm sure a lot of our audience, relate to as well right now.
Yeah, it's just as they said, 5 or 10 minutes a day, and don't wait. You have to have that time set aside for the two of you to connect, to relate, and to really continue to create that bond between the two of you. And again, as you said, it's prioritizing your relationship. We can always say, I don't have time for that now. I don't have time for that now. I'm too busy. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. But when it comes right down to it, what's the most important thing? It's our relationship.
Absolutely.
If we don't tend to the garden, it's not going to grow.
It's not going to grow. And you grew up, I want to kind of throw out a boating analogy, because I know you grew up around boats in the Keys, and I grew up in boats living in Florida. And when you're out on a boat and you're communicating, you have channel markers, and you've got red on one side and green on the other. And if you're looking at a chart or a map, it shows you where they are. Or if you have a satellite navigation, right, you'll see where they come up and where you've gone. And those channel markers are the same thing in a relationship as communication. When you have communication or touch points and you're anchoring yourself back to the relationship, you can keep the boat in between the markers and you stay in the channel, right? But when you don't have the communication, you wander off course. That's when trouble happens. That's when you run aground, you hurt the engine, you've got something you can't recover from, maybe you get stuck, right? So that communication, kind of like bumpers on the road, or the stripes on a road, or navigation, if we're talking about boating here, those communication, those touch points are critical to keep the relationship moving in the right direction.
I agree 100%, Matthew. What else do you have that stood out to you?
Sure. Well,
Interview?
one thing that kind of my big takeaway number 2 was talking about freedom in the relationship and what that looks like. And I think that Erika was kind of talking about this. She said, in a strong, healthy relationship, you can't be worried what someone else is going to think or does or respond or doesn't respond to you. And if you are communicating or acting out of love, then you can be assured and know that your spouse is going to listen to it and take it in the way it was delivered and intended. And I think that you got to be free to share exactly how you feel. And you can't be worried, oh no, what if they think I'm crazy? Or what if they don't agree with what I believe? And, it comes back to that whole understanding thing. And I think that, I don't remember who said it in the interview, but they said every time we have a safe conversation, you don't want to create more fear that something bad is coming in the next one. Like, okay, well, that one was okay, but man, what's going to happen next time? And if you don't allow your spouse to communicate freely how they feel all the time, then you're on pins and needles because you always think something bad is around the corner, as opposed to giving each other the grace and the freedom to be able to just talk about anything, how you feel. And I think Scott said, hey, it's okay to disagree. He said sensitivity equals poverty. And so that was a huge takeaway. If you're oversensitive, then you're poor because you're not allowing real feelings to come out and occur in the conversation and being real with each other. And to me, that was just huge for me.
Well, and what I appreciated about Erika is that she said, you know, she's had to learn how to share a sensitive truth and to share what she believes is right and not really care how he responds. So that's that vulnerability again surfacing and being able to feel safe in saying whatever truth you need to share and knowing that it's okay and you're not going to be judged, you're not going to be condemned, but the partner is going to listen and truly hear and value what you say.
Creating a kick-ass marriage, do you ever wonder what you could be doing better? Have you ever thought how helpful it would be to be a part of a like-minded community of other imperfect couples who want to level up in their number one relationship? Come visit Kickass Couples Nation, where you can talk with people just like you who are looking for ways to invest in and increase their joy, commitment, and fulfillment in their most important human relationship. You'll have access to a team of licensed marriage therapists, coaches, articles, podcasts, live webinars, and more. Just visit MatthewPHoffman.com so you can learn more about a community that's ready to help you level up. That's MatthewPHoffman.com so you can become of the growing Kick-Ass Couples Nation right now. And so we've talked about this some before, Kim, and I want to share a quote and then kind of ask you a little bit more about that before we move on to your next takeaway. Is, you know, they talked about feelings and emotion getting in the way, right? And Scott pulled up a quote from Mark Twain. I wrote it down. He said, this is Mark Twain, but Scott quoted him. He said, it's more important to be curious instead of popular, meaning asking questions. Maybe you uncover something you don't want to hear, or it may be critical or may not go where you want to, but that quality of being curious and willing to express and learn and understand more about feelings is more important than being popular. So in this freedom to communicate our feelings, can you think of anything, or let's just share with our audience maybe a little bit about how do you do that without coming off as critical, or without that finger pointing, or without your spouse feeling like you're dumping on them, or you're ganging up on them, or you're judging them? So how do you, when you want to tell me something sensitive or that is important to you, how do you think it's done so it's not taken that way?
Well, I think that the process is really important. I believe that when we start off the conversation by saying, I feel, or I was made to feel this way when you said this to me. I think you just have to be very careful with how you approach whatever it is that you're bringing up, and be sensitive to your partner when you're saying it. You cannot be accusatory. You cannot point fingers. You cannot say you did this or you always do that. I really feel like you have to start with, I feel, I noticed, and use I instead of the you.
And I think Gottman refers to that, we've talked about before with Chris Cambis, it's a soft startup, right? It's kind of that easing. If you think of like slipping on a slipper, like you gently put your foot in and slide it in. Right. It's a gentle approach.
Well, it's like, hey, I really felt hurt when I showed up today and said, hey, babe, I wanted to, tell you about what was happening today with Caden and I, and we did this, and you're like, yeah. I gotta go up and I gotta take this call. And you just sort of blow it off. Not that you did that, but I'm just using that as an example. And I think it's important that when we approach our spouse that we do say, hey, gosh, today when that happened, it really made me feel down and it hurt my feelings.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. And I think that soft startup and talking about yourself, like when you're talking about yourself and your feelings, we've already said and put the place marker that you're allowed to do that. It's when we start saying you or the fingers pointing or there's criticism or contempt, though any of those four horsemen come in. So great. Well, what was your next takeaway?
So I feel like they talked a little bit about conflict and, they think that the process versus the outcome is what's most important. So, and I would agree with that. I think it's okay to disagree. Again, you said that sensitivity equals poverty. And, I think that it's important to be curious, to, just really when conflict arises, to be open, vulnerable, and work through it and not let it fester. And I feel like that they have a really good handle on that.
Yeah, it seems like they were Minutemen relative to responding in the moment and handling it and agreeing to move on. And I think one of the things that they were able to come back to, we talked about today, it's that third person in the room. It's that thing where you can say, hey, wait a minute, hey, hold it up right here. Look, I don't see that on here. Or we say we're committed to not doing that, or we're committed to doing this. And it's nice to have that because it's kind of like a contract. It's like, well, wait a minute. When there's questions, we can refer back to that. And
hey, didn't we agree to not do this or not say that? Or
right. And it's cool because it takes kind of that judgment out about it. I like that. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
So
what else do you have for
well,
me?
so
for our listeners.
For our listeners, well, it's for you too. I know we get to.
I love it because I feel like I'm learning at the same time.
We get to grow right along with you.
Absolutely.
We are in this together. So Scott talked about when we were kind of moving on to other pillars and what was important. He said, faith is huge to me. Faith and moral code, which is one of our pillars, and it's important. And I want to talk about faith a little bit because faith means different things to different people. So I want to kind of hit it on both contexts if we can. And, one of the things that attracted me most to you was your faith and your moral code because I saw your principles. And I mean your faith, your religion, your beliefs, your core beliefs about God and how you worship. Because I think that you and I are very similar. Even though we both come from Christian faith traditions, but different. But what's so cool is the commonality is there. And so that was a huge attractor to me because I saw that you were strong in your faith. And we have that individually, that vertical relationship between us and God. But then we have it in common as well. So it ties us together. But I think that, Scott kind of defined faith. He said, and this is a common definition, but it's believing in someone or something in the absence of proof, right? So
Sure.
you can't see it, you can't touch it, maybe you can't label it or put your arms around it and squeeze it, but it's there. And that's really, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And I love that because he said, he continued on, he said that you got to believe in yourself, and that's critical. And he said, he used this acronym. He goes, first you got to fly, FLY. First, love yourself. Mm-hmm. And, how can you be good in a relationship? Big takeaway for me. It's kind of like, the oxygen mask analogy, right? In the plane, they go, put your mask on first before you help others. And
that's right.
If you don't have faith and believe in and invest in and take care of yourself, first, if you don't love yourself, how can you effectively love somebody else? You're number one. And he talked about self-care, self-love, valuing who you are. And he said, you know what? The hard, cold fact is that the world does not always support you doing that because they say, no, sacrifice yourself, give too much, do whatever it takes. If it kills you, so what? If it's in service, it's okay. And so I'm kind of What's your take on that? How do you feel about that issue of faith individually and then kind of collectively?
Well, so for me personally, my faith is really what is my foundation, and it's what drives me and what guides me. And my faith in God really is what sets the tone for how I behave when I'm in public, but also more importantly, how I behave when I am by myself. And that has just always been something that has been a really big part of who I am. It's my compass. It guides me. It protects me. And that's just, I was raised in a Protestant faith, and I've just really maintained that my entire life. And I know that I cannot be the best Kim unless I am really filled with that faith and with God. And that's what allows me to be able to do everything that I do, with you, with our family, with our kids. It's just, it's what pushes me forward. And again, that's my compass.
That's beautiful. I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that, and with our audience as well. So let's kind of take that to the next step. When we talk about faith and moral code in a relationship, or faith in the relationship, right? If we're holding on to and believing in something that is there, yet it's not tangible. So when you think about, or if someone wants to work on the faith or have faith in their relationship, what do you think that's built on? Or how do we work on it? Or how do we know we can have it, right? I mean, how do you put bumpers on it, or make it have a little skin on it, as a good friend of mine says?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think that you have to really build faith in a relationship, and it comes with trust. It comes with feeling safe. It comes with being vulnerable. I think all those things go into making a faith-filled relationship.
I would agree. I think I was being interviewed on another podcast. I don't remember which one it was. And I think that, and Chris and I talk about this in the book a little bit, but Benjamin Franklin has a quote where he says, many strokes fell great oaks, meaning it's not one stroke that cuts a big oak tree down, right?
That's right.
And like having faith in a relationship, you've heard the term small things often. Isn't it kind of a collection, or it's pieces of thread in a fabric that when woven together, or cords of a rope, it's
Strengthens it.
yeah, all those things together make a faithful relationship. So when you talk about the little things, being faithful over the little things, keeping your word, respecting your spouse, making sure you're loving them, making sure you're thinking of them positively in the right light. We could go on and on. You and I could probably come up with a huge list of things, but faith, I think, in a relationship, if you're saying, how can we have more faith, or how can I have more faith in my relationship? It's both spouses doing those small things often that build the resilience and the consistency and weave that strong fabric.
That is so well said.
Thank you. So that was my third one. What about you? Did you have anything else that we want to share with our listeners? Any big takeaways about Scott and Erika Savor?
I think that one of the things that they do that's important to note is they have a gratitude journal. They do it. They have their son do it as well. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. When you're expressing gratitude, you cannot help but be happy, joy-filled. You're not fearful, right? When you're expressing gratitude. We've talked about that before. But I just think it's important to share with our listeners how enriched your life becomes when you have a gratitude journal.
Yeah, and a gratitude practice. And I think I've said before, I model this, I think Hal Elrod in Miracle Morning. It's a great book that I read. A little shout out to him. And that got me going on the journaling process. My sister's a big writer. She writes in a journal and just writes to write because she's a writer. But I have my practice, the way I've done it, is I write 10 things down every day that I am grateful for. And then I also send love out. I write 3 people I want to send love out and hold the right thought about in my day, people that might need support or issues or conditions that might come up in the committee and the media. And when you start your focus that way, it's kind of like being on the right track. I mean, if you can turn on any road, if you turn on the right road, then you're going to get to where you want to go more quickly. And starting with gratitude and writing it and thinking it and focusing on it really means that's the road that you're on, and it's a good base to come from.
I agree. I had one more point that I wanted to bring up that Scott shared with us, and he said, don't try to control everything. And I really appreciated that, especially coming from someone who felt like they needed to control many of the things that were going on around them. And, he said, hit the brakes. You can't control everything. Try to gain a better understanding. Be a sponge, practice, learn. And he said, really prepare and learn from others. And that's why we're doing this podcast. It's so that we can learn from others. Really try to seek out understanding. And I felt like that was really good advice to, educate yourself. Go out there and learn and be a sponge.
Good words to end on, and we are so grateful to have the opportunity. I love sitting next to this woman and sharing these thoughts and ideas. We hope you find some value in it. And if you do, please give us a review. Rate us. Let us know what you think about and what you like. If there's anything you'd like us to work on, we are so excited to have this opportunity to talk to you today about Scott and Erika Savor. And we hope that you will keep listening and share with others if you like this. And hey, by the time you listen to this podcast, it's out. Kickass Couples Nation will be up and running. So if you want to be with like-minded people, other imperfect couples that want to level up in their number one relationship, come check us out at MatthewPHoffman.com and join the movement and learn how to prioritize your spouse. And because I always say this, but it's the darn truth that happily ever after does not just happen. We'll see y'all next time.
Take care. That's all we've got for this episode of the Kickass Couples Podcast. If you like the content of this show, you'll love Matthew's newly released book, Kickass Husband, Winning at Life, Marriage, and Sex. To receive a digital mini book of quotes and images from the book, all you have to do is rate this show and leave a review in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen. Then email us a screenshot of your review at podcast@kickasscouplespodcast.com, and we'll get it over to you right away. Until next time, remember, happily ever after doesn't just happen, it's on purpose.